there, my lightlings. I'm at home today. I decided to do my video outside in my backyard, so forgive the noise that you're going to hear around you. I hope you guys are all well and blessed today. If you don't know, I'm Beth. I am a Reiki master and a shaman trainee, empath, light worker, and also a licensed funeral director. I did leave the funeral business. That is a story for another time if you're interested. But straight to my point. So death is a hard subject to talk about, but it has to be talked about. I want you guys to know that it is hard to decide what to do with our loved ones if we have to choose a funeral home, well, when we have to choose a funeral home, if we're the ones that have to do it. A lot of people choose funeral homes for a variety of reasons. One, it's just a family tradition. Two, consider the source. They're a good funeral home. You know, they have reputable reviews and they're just really good with the community. Another, some people do it because, let's face it, things are expensive nowadays, and sometimes it's money. And people are like, well, I can't spend the money, I don't have it. My parents didn't have it, or you lost somebody who was young, and nobody expects that. So let's face it, let's be real and honest, that happens. Sometimes they do it just out of convenience because it just happens to be the first one they pass when they're, trying to think about things. Sometimes our hospitals and our hospice workers do help by giving lists, and they can't really recommend things, at least here in the state of Florida, but they can give you a list and say, this one's closer, this one's this far, so they can you could pick it from them if you really, really wanted to. But generally speaking, they're not really allowed to give you guys you should go to that one. Anywho, so getting to the point of this whole thing, there's a lot of things that funeral homes do that people aren't aware of, that they aren't allowed to. There's a lot of regulation in this industry, a lot of it, and it can cause a lot of headaches. It's also hard to, what's the word I want to use? It's very difficult to put a price on someone's last moments with their loved one. And so it does need to be regulated. A couple of things I want to address. If you go somewhere and you feel uncomfortable, you are not required to use that funeral home. You don't have to. You could say, listen, if there's a fee for you keeping my loved one here, we'll pay the fee, but we would like to go somewhere else. Can you reduce the fee because, we did choose someone else? If it's a reputable funeral home and they're really, really good at what they do, most of the times they're not going to charge you a fee. And if they do, it'll be slight. It'll be like, listen, we totally get it, to each his own. Another thing, you are not required, at least by Florida standards. I mean, we are here in Florida, so there are, probably lots of different rules down here. But yes, by Florida standards, because I am only licensed here, I don't know about other states. I know we all are very highly regulated, but each one has their own state rules to it. There is a whole about the industry, but there's also each individual states. So with that said, you in the state of Florida do not have to purchase a casket through the funeral home you are using. It is not required by law. You do have to have a casket, though, if you are going to bury someone. in an urn vault, or a vault, a casket vault. An urn vault is something I'll talk about a little bit later, but you don't need to purchase it through that funeral home. It's convenient. Let me tell you, you're in there, you're going through something. It's not easy to decide. They throw all these choices at you, and now you got to pick a color, and then you got to pick something that you think is the best for mom or for dad or grandma, whatever. It isn't easy to do. I've seen it, I've watched it, I'm guilty of doing this, taking away options. Look, this is what I think. This is what you should pick from. Give them one or two options and go from there. Only because that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to direct. I'm supposed to lead and guide in the right direction. So that way you guys can have a pleasant experience. Fair enough. As far as a vault or a casket, you can get them from a third party, but just know the rules of that funeral home. Some funeral homes are like, hey, no big deal, go get your willy-nilly, Costco casket, that's fine, or purchase from us, we don't care either way. Most of the time they're going to be like, okay, come on, let's be serious. Now there's rules involved. We're not responsible for that third party casket if it comes delivered to us dented or anything like that. However, if it's dented at the funeral home, from the funeral home, you're probably going to get another casket, or they're going to fix it and you won't have to deal with that problem. That's not a fun problem to deal with, by the way. Let somebody else do it if you can. You do not, if you get a cremation, and let's face it, cremation, especially here in Florida, it is 80% rate of funerals are cremations in the state of Florida. At least it was the last time I looked. It might be a little bit higher. I know across the country I think it's 70%. It might be at 60 something, but it's getting up there. It's just what people do. It's cheaper. It's especially down here in Florida. I mean, let's face it, most people come down here, retire, and their family stays somewhere else. So when you are here and you've got nobody else, I mean, what's the best option? Probably to just do a cremation and have your cremated remains sent up back to where you were living with your family, if that's what they so choose to do. And you don't have to do that either. However, if you do choose to be cremated, you are not required to purchase an urn through the funeral home. There are a plethora of urns online. I've seen them. I'm like, ooh, we should sell that, or we should get that urn or something, or go with this provider for the urns. Like, it would be really cool to have that, and I've seen some amazing urns, let me tell you, that we didn't sell. Amazing. But again, it's for convenience. And those are not a third party thing. Obviously, if it comes and it's shipped to you and it's dented or something, that's something that you got to deal with. Don't put it on the funeral home. It's not their fault. And please don't try to pull one over on them, because we know what an urn's supposed to look like. We can look it up online. We can see, but don't try to go in and say it wasn't dented and then it really was, and blame the funeral home. Please don't do that. Not that people would. I mean, I would think people have integrity, but weirder things have happened. And then, so you could purchase your urn anywhere. You don't have to purchase through the funeral home. Just be aware, if you do purchase your own urn and you don't want the funeral director to place your loved one inside that urn, it's something you're going to have to do, and that is a difficult thing. And also, you're going to have to, make sure that when it comes to, you're going to have to be aware it's not going to be, it's just going to be in a box, in a bag, but in a box. And I'm sorry, it's not very pretty. I've explained this to many families. Don't be alarmed. It's shocking. It really is shocking. going back to caskets, I did almost forget because this is in reference to a cremation. If you are in the state of Florida, I don't know about other states, you are required to purchase a container for your loved one to be cremated in. There are state regulations. Crematories have to follow them. We don't get, hey, no big deal, slap on the wrist. I mean, it's a big thing, and the state does come and check and make sure that we have them available and blah, blah, blah. Again, you don't have to purchase it through the funeral home, but it's not very high. They're not that expensive, and if you want to see your loved one again, I would not recommend seeing them in one of these containers, because they are just cardboard and it's minimal. It's not very pretentious or anything. And then there's the whole, if you feel like they're trying to push you into services and stuff, again, you don't have to stay there. You could say, hey, can I please, I don't want to do this. I want to, go somewhere else where I feel more comfortable. Now, if you're looking for a cemetery, and in the great old state of Florida, funeral homes and cemeteries can be on the same property. In other states, not so much. Sometimes it just depends. I have found that people feel obligated to use the cemetery just because it's there. Urn burials, mausoleums, and burial plots, obviously. You're not required to. You don't have to. If you want to take Grandmama to Hawaii and sprinkle her on a beach, I would just make sure nobody's watching. Don't get caught, because it's generally illegal. But I mean, no offense, it looks like sand, and if it's mixed in, how are you gonna get it back? That's just my thought. Then, as far as the burial, if you are going to bury, you are not required to use the funeral home cemetery. It is not a requirement. Actually, in fact, it's illegal for them to tell you you have to use it. You're not. If you want Grandmama to be shipped to Hawaii, you can do that. Just know it's going to cost. It's not cheap to send a full casket anywhere in this country, anywhere at all. Overseas, there's more work involved. There's paperwork that has to be involved. You have to get I totally forgot what the word is. But anyway, you have to get like the countries to approve it, and you have to get everything typed up, apostilles. They have to be typed up in a certain language that wherever you're sending to, and I'm sure it's vice versa. I'm sure for other countries it's similar. You also don't have to purchase an urn vault or a casket vault through the funeral home. You can go and you can purchase them somewhere else. Again, it's convenience. They're there. They already have them. They already work with a team that brings them and sets everything up. So if you can, just give as much work to the funeral director and the funeral home that you can, because that's what they're there for. You are required to pay them a service fee. Sometimes it can get costly, but they're doing it to help take work off of you. They're doing it to help you have an easier time, because you're already going through something so miserable that you don't probably ever want to think about it again. And in my experience, most of the time, people are so just longing for their loved one and so distraught that they just go through the motions, and they're not really there, and they don't know. pick the prayer cards, they pick the book, they pick the casket, and then you tell them the time and they show up and they meet the minister, and that doesn't look like mom. No, it doesn't. But we do our best. It's very difficult sometimes. And another thing, at least in the state of Florida, you are not required to have your loved one embalmed. It is not a legal thing. This is something that I have actually heard other funeral directors say, that legally you have to embalm your loved one. You only have to do it if you're going to place them in a mausoleum, because, especially in the state of Florida, things decompose and they can get pretty yucky, and it really does help the process of, without getting too much, of the smells. And it really does help with that. So it is kind of a requirement for cemeteries, at least if you're going to be in a mausoleum. And again, with the cemetery, if your loved one is a veteran, they are allowed to be buried for free at a national cemetery, provided that they have the space to do so, whichever one you pick. Most of them are very large and they have plenty of space, but some of them, like Arlington National Cemetery, are running out of space and they just don't have it anymore. So just be aware of that. And if your loved one was married, when they passed away, their spouse, when they pass, can also be buried with them. And the cemetery, the National Cemetery, will talk to you about those things. I think that national cemeteries are amazing, and I thank everybody who has been in the military for their service, because it's not an easy sacrifice. But thank you so much for doing that. Let me see, did I get all my points out? I think that I did. And as far as embalming, I'm gonna go fly back to that one a little bit. It is not really required, but if you are going to have a full viewing in Florida, you kind of should. It is highly recommended, because sometimes our bodies, whether we were sick in life or not, they can carry diseases, and we want to protect the public, and they just will look better, and they won't have that odor, because again, they, even though they're in refrigeration, they will decompose. That's what we're meant to do. We're natural, we're biological. That's what biological things do. They decompose. You can't stop it from happening. You can slow it down for a little bit, which is good. And just to answer anybody's question, because I hear it coming, how long does it last? It depends on your composition, how you're made, your chemistry of your body, how the embalming went. Sometimes people can be embalmed and they'll only last a week. Sometimes people can be embalmed and they can last years. It's just really dependent on your makeup, each individual's makeup. And I guess that's that. Think about those. If you guys have more questions, let me know. I didn't mean to go on so long. I had heard something, and I'm like, integrity is a huge thing for me, especially in this field, because it can be so hard to just get through things, and then somebody taking advantage of you, that makes it even worse, and it's not fair, and it's not right, and I don't believe in that. Anyway, I want to thank you guys all for listening, and love and light to everybody. I love you, all my lightlings and my not lightlings, or my soon to be lightlings. I just want you guys to know that if you have any questions, funeral wise or not, feel free to ask me questions. Mwah.